Your reality isn't shaped by what you think or wish for. It's shaped by something running beneath conscious awareness, an invisible signal broadcasting 24/7 that determines which timeline materializes around you. Most people spend years trying to change their external world while completely missing the internal switch that controls everything. Right now, in this moment, your body is sending an electromagnetic signature into the quantum field. That signature doesn't reflect your goals or your vision board. It reflects your dominant internal state, the emotional baseline your nervous system memorized years ago and keeps replaying without asking permission. This video reveals the exact mechanism behind that signal and how to flip the switch that's been choosing your reality in the background. Once you see it, manifestation stops being a struggle and becomes automatic, because you'll finally understand that the quantum field doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to who you're being.
There comes a point in every person's journey when truth starts pulling at them from somewhere underneath the surface. A moment when something deep inside begins whispering, "You didn't actually choose this reality, it chose you first." Most people hear that whisper and immediately shut it down. But you're here, watching this, because something in you already understands that your reality hasn't been created by your thoughts, your daily affirmations, or even your conscious intentions. It's been created by something deeper, something more ancient, something operating behind the scenes, like hidden software running your entire system. And here's the strangest part of all. That hidden mechanism isn't mystical or random or beyond your grasp. It's internal, it's measurable, it's precise, and it's been influencing every single outcome in your life without you consciously knowing about it. Picture yourself walking through a house where every light turns on before your hand reaches the switch. At first, you might think it's some kind of magic happening. But then you realize there's actually a sensor detecting your presence and making decisions for you automatically. That's exactly how most people go through the manifestation process. They genuinely believe they're making conscious choices about their reality. But there's an internal sensor, a switch buried way beneath awareness, that's been choosing for them this whole time. It's not your desire that actually sends the signal into the quantum field. It's not your vision board or your carefully planned morning routine. It's the state your body automatically returns to. The state that keeps broadcasting around the clock whether you're paying attention or not. And here's the paradox that most spiritual teachings completely skip over. The quantum field responds to your dominant vibration, not your preferred one. That means the life you're experiencing right now isn't actually a reflection of your goals or dreams. It's a perfect reflection of your internal baseline. This is the uncomfortable truth nobody really talks about, because it's both uncomfortable and incredibly liberating at the same time. If manifestation were simply about wanting things, every single human being on this planet would already be living in complete abundance, unconditional love, total clarity, and deep purpose. But wanting alone does absolutely nothing to shift the field. The quantum doesn't communicate in words or wishes. It speaks in coherence. It reads the electromagnetic signature you're constantly emitting. And that signature gets determined by the one thing you rarely take time to examine: your internal state. Not the state you try to create during your meditation practice or while you're journaling in the morning. I'm talking about the state you fall back into the very moment your mind starts drifting. The state your nervous system memorized years and years ago. The state your subconscious mind keeps replaying over and over without ever asking for your opinion about it. This is the switch. And this is exactly why your reality often feels like déjà vu or some kind of endless loop or a movie you've watched way too many times before. Here's where the science becomes absolutely impossible to ignore. In quantum mechanics, a system collapses into one specific outcome when the observer interacts with it. But the observer isn't just your conscious thinking mind. The observer is actually the totality of your internal state. Your patterns, your emotions, your memories, your body chemistry, your entire sense of identity. That means you've been collapsing timelines this whole time, not with what you consciously think about, but with who you are actually being moment to moment. And because identity operates as a feedback loop, your body keeps pulling you right back into the same vibrational signature you've been carrying around for years. You might tell yourself every morning, "I am abundant and prosperous," while simultaneously your body whispers underneath, "I am unsafe and uncertain." You might spend time visualizing love and connection, while your nervous system broadcasts fear and protection. And the field always listens to the louder signal, the more consistent one, the truly embodied one. This is exactly why people feel so stuck in their lives. Even when they're doing everything right according to all the teachings, they're actually flipping the wrong switch the entire time. But listen closely, because this is not where the story ends for you. This is actually where the open door begins to appear. Because once you truly understand that the quantum responds not to your surface level intentions but to your internal coherence, absolutely everything starts to change. Suddenly, you're not fighting against your current reality anymore. You're learning how to tune the signal that actually shapes it. You're learning that manifestation isn't about effort or force or trying harder. It's about alignment. And alignment isn't something you can think your way into through mental gymnastics. It's something you embody at a cellular level. The switch is internal, and the precise moment you flip it, reality begins rearranging itself, without resistance, without force, and without any delay whatsoever. Before we continue deeper into this, just sit with something for a moment. There is a version of you that has already flipped this switch. A version of you that moves through daily life with complete clarity, total coherence, and a signal powerful enough to actually bend probability in your favor. You feel brief flashes of that version sometimes. In dreams, in sudden intuition, in those rare moments when time feels thinner and possibilities feel closer. Those glimpses aren't fantasies or wishful thinking. They're actual leaks in the timeline, gentle reminders of the identity you're truly meant to step into fully. And if you're feeling something stirring inside you right now in this moment, that's not just emotion moving through you. That's recognition. Something inside you knows exactly what I'm describing here, even if your logical mind doesn't fully grasp it yet. This is the part where most people instinctively pull back, where they try to reason their way through the mystery using logic alone. But if you stay with me through this journey, you're going to see the mechanism with complete clarity, and once you truly see it, you can never unsee it again. Because in just a moment, I'm going to reveal the one internal shift that makes quantum manifestation work automatically, not gradually over time, automatically. But we need to go one layer deeper first into the mechanism. We need to expose the hidden pattern that's been choosing your reality in the background this whole time. The pattern your conscious mind keeps trying to override, but never fully understands how to change. And once we expose that pattern clearly, everything else will naturally fall into place. In the comments right now, drop one word that captures the energy you're choosing to carry forward from this point. Maybe it's alignment, maybe it's ease, maybe it's power, maybe it's something completely unique to your journey. Let that word be a small but profound declaration, a signal like a quantum seed you plant, not just in this comment section, but directly into the quantum field itself. There comes a moment in every real transformation when a person finally realizes that what they've been desperately trying to change on the outside was never actually the source of the problem. People change their habits, they adjust their routines, they set new goals, they try different strategies and techniques. But nothing truly shifts in their lived experience because the underlying signal remains completely untouched. In the quantum world, signals matter infinitely more than actions ever will. Frequencies speak far louder than intentions, and your internal state, the one that keeps pulling you back into familiar emotions and familiar outcomes over and over, is the real command center of your entire reality. The reason quantum manifestation feels so inconsistent for most people isn't because they lack clarity about what they want or lack discipline in their practices. It's because they haven't learned how the internal switch actually operates or even where it lives inside them. They keep trying to change their life from the surface level, while the field is responding to a much deeper layer they never directly address. Science has been pointing directly to this truth for decades now, but most people completely miss the profound implications. Your nervous system broadcasts electromagnetic patterns into the environment around you constantly. Your heart generates a measurable field that extends several feet beyond your physical body. Your brain synchronizes its electrical rhythms based on emotional memory and habitual thought loops you've been running for years. Every single moment of your life, these systems are forming one single unified signal, a vibrational signature that interacts directly with the quantum field. And here is the twist that completely overturns all conventional manifestation teachings you've probably encountered. This signature is not determined by your conscious desires or wishes. It gets determined by the emotional baseline that your body has actually memorized through repetition, meaning you are not sending out the signal of what you consciously want into the field. You are sending out the signal of what you consistently feel day after day. If your body has memorized survival mode as its baseline, the field receives survival. If your body has memorized fear as normal, the field receives fear. If your body has memorized expansion, coherence, and openness as its natural state, the field receives that frequency. This is the internal switch I keep referring to. But what exactly is it really? The switch is the state of coherence between your mind, your emotions, your identity, and your nervous system all working together. When these four components are misaligned and pulling in different directions, your signal becomes fragmented and scattered, and the field mirrors that exact fragmentation back to you through your lived experience. That's precisely why people say things like, "I'm thinking positive thoughts all day, but absolutely nothing changes in my life." They don't realize that the internal switch is still stuck in the old position, completely locked into the state they've been carrying around for years. Their mind says abundance and prosperity, but their body says threat and danger. Their mind says love and connection, but their heart says guard yourself and stay protected. Their mind says new reality, but their identity says, I'm not ready for that yet. The quantum doesn't collapse possibilities according to the loudest conscious thought. It collapses according to the most coherent state being broadcast. And coherence only appears when thought, emotion, belief, and biology are all vibrating in the exact same direction simultaneously. This is where the spiritual wisdom and the scientific understanding meet perfectly. Neville Goddard taught that you must actually feel the state of the wish fulfilled. Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches that your emotions broadcast your electromagnetic signature constantly. Quantum physics demonstrates that observation collapses probability waves into form. These teachings are not separate or conflicting. They are different angles of viewing the exact same truth. The internal switch is the precise point where feeling, identity, and observation fuse together into one coherent frequency. When the switch finally flips, you stop sending mixed messages to the field. Your signal becomes unified and clear, and a unified signal creates rapid manifestation because the field no longer has to guess which timeline you're actually aligning with. It receives a clear command it can respond to immediately. But here is the part absolutely nobody tells you clearly. This switch does not change through force or willpower. You cannot bully your nervous system into abundance or intimidate your heart into coherence through discipline. You cannot fake a frequency by repeating words your body fundamentally does not believe at a deeper level. The quantum field is not tricked by verbal affirmations or mental images if the underlying state contradicts them completely. The field reads emotional truth. It reads embodied belief. It reads the internal landscape accurately, not the external performance you're trying to project. And this is exactly why people get stuck spinning their wheels. They keep addressing the symptoms of misalignment instead of addressing the actual switch that controls the entire frequency being broadcast. Let's make this completely concrete and practical. Think of your internal state as the tuning dial on a radio receiver. You can scream at the radio all day long, "Play jazz music for me." But unless you actually change the frequency dial, the station will absolutely not shift to jazz. Your internal switch is the frequency selector of your reality. Your thoughts may say one thing very loudly, but if your internal dial is still set to the old station playing the old songs, the broadcast does not change at all. And your lived reality remains a perfect mirror of that internal dial setting. Most people try to change their station by thinking harder about it, visualizing longer and more intensely, or hoping more desperately. But the dial doesn't actually move at all because it's not controlled by conscious effort or mental focus. It's controlled by emotional signal, embodied identity, and true coherence. This explains perfectly why you can have those rare moments of clarity or deep alignment where manifestation suddenly feels easy, almost automatic, and effortless. In those special moments, your switch flipped without you consciously understanding how it happened. Maybe you felt genuinely grateful, completely open, deeply expanded, fully present, or totally connected with yourself. In those states, your mind and body were in complete harmony. Your heart and brain were perfectly synchronized. Your identity softened and relaxed. Your energy field naturally expanded outward. And for one brief moment, your signal was genuinely coherent. That coherence is exactly what the quantum field responds to immediately, because coherence is order, and order collapses probability into physical form with remarkable precision. But the problem most people face is that they return to their old emotional baseline within just minutes. Not because they consciously want to go back, but because the nervous system is literally addicted to familiar emotions. The body craves what is predictable and known, even if it's painful or limiting. Fear is familiar. Doubt is familiar. Self-sabotage is familiar. Survival mode is familiar. And the internal switch always defaults back to what is most familiar unless you consciously interrupt that pattern. That's the mechanism that has been shaping your life without your conscious permission. It's not your wishes or hopes. It's not your goals or plans. It's not your dreams or visions. It's the emotional past stored in your body, repeatedly chosen by your nervous system, sent into the field as your dominant signal every single day. And until that switch is flipped intentionally and held in the new position, the loop continues repeating endlessly. But the genuinely good news is this. Once you become aware of the switch and how it operates, you can change it, not with effort or struggle, but with alignment. Not with desire or wanting, but with embodiment. In the next part, we're going to explore why the old identity keeps pulling you back into the same frequency, the same outcomes, and the same version of yourself. And once you understand that mechanism clearly, you'll finally know how to stop sending a signal you never consciously chose in the first place. Something strange happens inside you every single time you try to change your life in a meaningful way. A silent resistance rises up, not as a thought you can argue with, but as a physical sensation. A tightening in the chest, a familiar heaviness behind the ribs, a subtle pullback into who you used to be. Most people assume this feeling is intuition trying to protect them, or fear warning them, or lack of motivation holding them back. It isn't any of those things. It's the gravitational pull of the old identity, the self you've been rehearsing and practicing for years and years, trying desperately to keep you inside the frequency it understands and feels safe with. Your old identity isn't just a psychological pattern or mental habit. It's a vibrational imprint stored directly in your nervous system, reinforced by endless repetition, held together by memory, emotion, and survival wiring. And the moment you genuinely try to flip the internal switch into a new frequency, that imprint reacts strongly. Not because it hates change or growth, but because it fears losing control of the timeline you've been unconsciously maintaining for so long. Think of your identity as a constellation of emotions, beliefs, and physiological reactions that your body has learned to predict with accuracy. Your brain loves prediction more than it loves happiness or fulfillment. It prefers the familiar chemical cocktail of old emotions, even if they actively sabotage your growth and potential. When you step toward a new reality, abundance, love, expansion, freedom, your old identity interprets it as instability and threat. It doesn't trust possibility or potential. It only trusts what it already knows through experience. So it begins pulling you back into old emotional signatures automatically. The same doubts, the same protective thoughts, the same bodily tension that you've carried around for years. Not because you're failing or doing something wrong, but because your system has been trained to keep you aligned with the past rather than the future you're calling in. Your old identity doesn't chase your desires or dreams. It chases safety above everything else. And safety is always found in the known and familiar. This is why people repeat the same emotional cycles endlessly, even after reading dozens of books, watching countless videos, journaling daily, meditating regularly, and visualizing intensely. The loops aren't mental patterns you can think your way out of. They're physiological patterns stored in the body. The body holds the past like an electrical voltage, and that voltage keeps turning the switch back to its old position automatically. You might mentally decide to embody abundance and prosperity, but if your heart is still broadcasting contraction and scarcity, the switch flips back. You might consciously choose to move toward a new relationship, but if your nervous system associates love with danger based on past experience, the switch flips back. You might try to manifest a completely new timeline, but if your identity still sees itself through the lens of limitation and unworthiness, the switch flips back every single time. And every time it happens, you tell yourself a story that isn't actually true. I'm blocked. I'm stuck. I'm doing something wrong. I'm not good enough at this. But the truth is far more empowering than that story. You're not blocked at all. You're entangled with an older version of yourself that hasn't been updated yet to match where you're going. In quantum terms, entanglement means systems remain connected and influence each other instantaneously, regardless of physical distance. Your old identity is one of those entangled systems. Even as you reach for new realities and possibilities, the emotional residue of your past is still influencing the signal you send to the field constantly. This is why growth feels like a tug of war inside you. You're not just creating a new version of you, you're actively disentangling from the previous one. And that disentanglement process is both the most challenging and the most liberating part of quantum manifestation. Because once the emotional tie to the old identity dissolves completely, the switch no longer flips back automatically. The new state becomes the default setting, the baseline frequency, the home frequency you return to naturally. And manifestation becomes automatic and effortless because the field finally receives a stable, coherent signal instead of a fractured, contradictory one. To understand how this works practically, imagine two tuning forks placed side by side on a table. Strike one and the other vibrates sympathetically in response. Your consciousness works the exact same way. When you try to activate a new signal, confidence, abundance, clarity, worthiness, the tuning fork of your future self begins to vibrate. But if the tuning fork of your past is louder, older, or more familiar through repetition, it will pull you back into resonance with it automatically. The body vibrates according to the frequency it has practiced most. In the next part, I'll show you the quantum shortcut, the method that flips the switch into coherence and keeps it there, not through effort or discipline, but through alignment. Not through mental force or willpower, but through embodied resonance. And for the first time in your life, your external reality will have no choice but to follow. The moment you understand that your reality has been shaped not by what you want consciously, but by what you consistently embody unconsciously, the entire game of manifestation changes completely. Most people believe they need to chase a new future harder, visualize more intensely, force themselves into positivity, or reprogram their mind through endless repetition. But the quantum doesn't respond to effort or struggle. It responds to order. And order is what coherence truly is at its core. When your thoughts move in one direction, your emotions in another direction, and your body in yet another direction, your signal becomes scrambled and unclear. The field mirrors that scramble back to you through mixed results, frustrating delays, and contradictions. But when mind, emotion, identity, and physiology align together, even briefly, the field receives a clear instruction it can follow. That moment of alignment is the quantum shortcut. That is, the switch flipping into place. And once flipped, reality reorganizes around the new signal with surprising speed. To understand how to flip this switch intentionally, you need to see coherence not as a spiritual ideal or abstract concept, but as a measurable biological and energetic phenomenon. Heart-brain coherence, for example, is not metaphorical or symbolic. Your heart produces an electromagnetic field far stronger than your brain's field. And when the heart enters a state of emotional clarity, gratitude, openness, presence, its rhythm becomes ordered and harmonious. That ordered rhythm influences the brain directly, synchronizing neural oscillations. When the two systems lock into harmony together, they create a stable frequency that expands through the body and outward into the environment around you. Scientists can record this shift with instruments. Spiritual traditions have taught it for centuries through practice. And the quantum field responds to the unified signal because coherence is the vibration of clarity. And clarity collapses probability with precision. But coherence isn't achieved by thinking about coherence intellectually. You can't mentally command your heart to soften or your nervous system to relax through willpower. Instead, coherence emerges naturally when you choose an internal state that carries no resistance. Resistance is the friction that fractures your frequency. When you try to manifest from stress, force, or desperation, the body constricts and the signal collapses into incoherence. That's why you can spend hours visualizing your dream life and still feel stuck exactly where you are. You're trying to build a new timeline from a constricted state. You're sending two signals at once, the intention of expansion and the vibration of contraction. The field reads the contraction. The quantum shortcut then begins with removing resistance, not by eliminating fear completely, but by shifting the emotional climate in which your intention lives. The fastest way to reduce resistance is to interrupt the emotional momentum of the old identity. Every identity is built on a rhythm, patterns of breath, patterns of tension, patterns of emotion. Those rhythms generate predictable signals. So, when you take a slow, intentional breath, you are not just breathing air, you are disrupting a vibrational pattern. When you relax your shoulders or soften your jaw, you are not just releasing physical tension, you are altering the energetic structure that holds the old reality in place. When you place your hand over your heart gently, you send sensory feedback to the vagus nerve, shifting your physiology towards safety. Safety dissolves resistance. And without resistance, the switch can flip. But breath and relaxation are only the doorway into coherence. The real flip happens when you embody the emotional signature of the reality you want before it arrives physically, not through pretending or forcing, but through resonance. The nervous system cannot distinguish between an emotion imagined vividly and an emotion created by real experience. If you generate the feeling state of the timeline you desire, peace, expansion, abundance, ease, freedom, the body begins to believe it's real. Once the body believes it, the identity adjusts accordingly. Once the identity adjusts, the signal stabilizes. And once the signal stabilizes, the field begins collapsing events around that frequency automatically. This is why Neville Goddard taught the feeling of the wish fulfilled so consistently. Not because feeling makes the universe obey you, but because the feeling shifts your biology into coherence with the desired timeline. Here's the part most people overlook completely. The switch doesn't flip through dramatic emotional intensity. It flips through consistency of state. You don't need to feel powerful for an hour straight. You need to feel aligned for a moment. A single moment of genuine coherence sends a signal stronger than a month of stressed intention. In that moment, the whole system harmonizes. Heart, brain, identity, breath, field. This alignment creates a vibrational lock that the quantum field responds to quickly. Manifestation appears faster not because you forced the outcome, but because you finally sent a signal the field could read clearly. And when the field receives clarity, it organizes reality with remarkable speed and accuracy. But flipping the switch requires one more thing: releasing attachment to how the new reality should arrive. Attachment is a subtle form of resistance disguised as desire. When you try to control the path, you contract your frequency. When you contract your frequency, the switch slips back. That's why letting go is such a crucial part of manifestation. Letting go is not giving up or surrendering your dreams. It is stepping out of resistance so the field can do what the field does best: reorganize probability around your internal state. When you hold the internal state but release the external pressure, the switch remains in the new position long enough to generate tangible shifts. Let's make this practical. The switch flips the moment your inner experience becomes more coherent than your old conditioning. You don't need to fight the old identity. You don't need to destroy it. You simply need to generate a new stable frequency long enough for the body to realize it's safe to remain there. Every breath that invites safety, every moment of genuine gratitude, every second of embodied presence contributes to tuning your signal. And once the body recognizes the new frequency as familiar, it becomes the new baseline. That's when manifestation becomes effortless. That's when the field begins responding automatically. That's when the switch stays on. In the next section, we'll step into the part most people never reach: the moment when the new signal becomes not something you practice, but something you are. Because when you change the observer, you don't just shift your internal world, you shift the reality that forms around you. In the comments, share one small act you're committing to today, something that anchors you into your new life path. It could be as simple as breathe, or trust, or open. Your word matters. Your act matters, because you matter. When the internal switch settles into a new position, something remarkable begins to happen. The world doesn't change all at once, and yet it does. The air feels different. People respond differently. Opportunities that used to slip through your fingers begin to hold their shape. The same streets look unfamiliar, as if the world is leaning in to meet you halfway. This is the quiet revolution that unfolds when the observer within you shifts. Reality doesn't transform through sudden flashes of magic. It transforms through a steady reorganization around your new frequency. And the more coherent your internal state becomes, the more naturally the external world aligns with it. You start noticing that old reactions simply don't activate anymore. The survival emotions that once dictated your choices lose their power. You feel less triggered, less rushed, less entangled in the noise of the past. This is not self-control. This is vibrational truth stabilizing inside you. When the body recognizes a new emotional baseline as familiar, it stops dragging you back into old cycles. The switch stays aligned because the old identity no longer has the authority to reset it. You're no longer living from memory. You're living from intention, embodied as presence. And presence is the birthplace of all coherent manifestation. The field responds to this effortlessly. You'll notice synchronicities that feel too precise to be random, as if life has started speaking in a language you were always meant to understand. People show up at the right time. Solutions emerge before the problem fully forms. Ideas feel guided instead of forced. This isn't luck or coincidence. It's physics and consciousness dancing in harmony. You've stopped sending contradictory signals. You've stopped collapsing timelines that belong to an older version of you. The quantum field finally has a clear message to mirror back, and it responds with elegance because clarity is irresistible to the field. When your signal is coherent, reality aligns with it like metal filings arranging themselves around a magnet. Most people think change happens when they achieve something new, but the deepest transformations happen when something inside them no longer resonates with who they used to be. The old emotional signatures dissolve, not because you fought them, but because you outgrew them vibrationally. That is the true quantum shift. A version of you that can no longer fit inside the life you lived before. And once that happens, you're not chasing manifestations anymore. They gravitate toward you because you've become the kind of observer the field can trust. It doesn't need convincing or begging or endless repetition. It responds to who you are being now. This is the moment where your future self stops feeling like a distant possibility and starts feeling like the natural continuation of who you are. You sense that the timeline you desire isn't ahead of you. It's parallel to you, waiting to be stabilized through coherence. And the more you inhabit the internal state of the person who already lives that reality, the more the external world folds itself into alignment. This is why manifestation becomes automatic, not because the universe suddenly favors you, but because you finally tuned yourself to a frequency that harmonizes with the life you're calling in. As you ground into this new identity, something else awakens, a sense of belonging to a reality that once felt out of reach. You're not forcing updates, you're receiving them. You're not imagining possibilities, you're inhabiting them. You understand at a cellular level that your internal state is not a reaction to the world, but a command to the world. And when you live from that truth, creation becomes an extension of your presence. Life starts moving with you instead of around you, and the field responds to your coherence with the same consistency you offer it. This is the foundation of effortless manifestation. A stable observer, a steady signal, a coherent identity, and a willingness to allow reality to rearrange itself around who you choose to be. Before we close, let this imprint settle deeper than logic. You came here because you're ready to stop trying and start resonating. You're ready to stop negotiating with your past and start aligning with your future. The switch is internal, yes, but the transformation that follows is universal. And once this internal shift becomes your new normal, everything you've been trying to attract begins moving toward you with clarity and purpose. Not because you asked harder, but because you finally became the person the field was waiting to respond to. Make sure you share this video with your friends and family. You might just be a blessing in disguise for them. For you, it may be just sharing. But for someone in need, it may mean everything. And their gratitude will increase the positive energy flowing back to you. If you feel called to take this deeper, to understand the mechanics, the practices, the identity shifts, and the energetic alignments that make this transformation sustainable, there is a path curated specifically for this stage of your journey. It's inside the Awaken Your Quantum Power ebook, along with its practical companion guide. This isn't a casual read. It's a structured immersion designed to amplify your coherence, stabilize your new frequency, and help you collapse the timelines that no longer serve you. You'll find the link waiting for you in the pinned comment. Follow that pull. Your next level is already active. All that's left is for you to step into it.